time would you understand what it's all about, what it's all about? Something scratching its way out, something you wanna forget about. No one expects you to share, all on your own with no one something scratching its way out, something you won't forget about. No one expects you to share, all on your own with no one
Let us play with fire tonight. You are the one that I love. Look at it and turn me on. Always will be. Always will be. Take over control. Take over control. Take over control of me. Take over control. Take over control. Take over control of me. Always will be. Let us play with fire tonight. Well, you are the one that I like. I want you to take over control. Take over control of me. Whoa, I want you to take over control. Plug it in and turn me on. Plug it in and turn me on. Always will be. Always will be. Take over control. Take over control. Take over control of me. Take over control. Take over control. Take over control of me. Plug it in and turn me on.
I spent my time watching the spaces that had grown between us, and I cut my mind on second best. All the scars that come with the greenness, and I gave my eyes to the boredom. Still the seabed wouldn't let me in, and I tried my best to embrace the darkness in which I swim. Now walking back down this mountain, the strength of a turning tide. Oh, the wind's so soft at my skin, yeah, the sun's so hot upon my side. Oh, looking out at this happiness I search for between the sheets, or feeling blind to realize all I was searching for was me. Oh, all I was searching for was me. Keep your head up, keep your heart strong. No, 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 no. Keep your mind set, keep your head low. Oh my, my darling, keep your head up, keep your heart strong. No, 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 no. Keep your mind set in your way. Well, keep your heart strong. And I saw a friend of mine the other day, and he told me that my eyes were gleaming. Oh, I said I'd been away, and he knew, oh, he knew the depths I was meaning, and it felt so good to see his face, all the comfort invested in my soul, or to feel the warmth of his smile when he said, I'm happy to have you home. Oh, I'm happy to have you home. Keep your head up, keep your heart strong. No, 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 no. Keep your mind set, keep your head low. Oh my, my darling, keep your head up, keep your heart strong. No, 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 no. Keep your mind set in your ways. Oh, keep your heart strong. 'Cause I'll always remember you the same. Oh, eyes like wildflowers, oh, the demons that change. May you find happiness in. Keep your head up, keep your heart strong. No, 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 no. Keep your mind set, keep your head low. Oh my, my darling, keep your head up, keep
Students' annual general meeting here in Aberystwyth on the evening of Wednesday the 9th of May. Tonight's coverage is brought to you exclusively by Aberystwyth Student Media. The room is now starting to fill up and the meeting is scheduled to begin at 6:25. We now have a short video introducing tonight's proceedings.
Good evening and welcome to the 2012 AGM here at the Guild of Students in Aberystwyth. It's the evening of the 1st of May and tonight's coverage is brought to you by Aberystwyth Student Media. I'm Kai Whitehouse, news editor of the Courier, Aberystwyth student newspaper, and the AGM here tonight is going to be the final opportunity of the academic year for students, that is members of the Guild, to put forward motions to change Guild policy and to hold the executive officers to account. There are a total of 10 motions to be put forward tonight, which I'll go over with you shortly. The full-time executive officers will each give a statement on their recent activities, after which the floor will be open for questions. The officers speaking will be, of course, Ben Meakin, the President of the Guild of Students, Alan Minifie, the Activities Officer, Tom Burmeister, Student Support Officer, Tammy Hawkins, the UMCA President, and Jess Lee, the Education Officer. It will, of course, be the last time Alan, Tom and Tammy will be speaking to the floor, after which they're retiring, leaving Aberystwyth this year. The AGM will then receive the annual report and accounts from the trustees and approve the appointment of auditors for the accounts for the upcoming year. This is likely to be the reappointment of KPMG, who have completed the accounts over the last year. These are already available to view online and can be found at the Guild website. You can also send questions on it to the Guild Finance Manager, that is Nancy George, who can be reached on ngg@aber.ac.uk. There will also be elections held to 2 Guild committees, that is the Elections Committee, who help oversee the student elections, and the Democratic Procedures Committee, who oversee Guild meetings and assist the Guild chairperson. That's tonight's chairman, Guy Drury. You can comment on tonight's proceedings by using our live blog, available on AberCourier.com/AGM, or by tweeting with the hashtag AberGM. The next motion is on the Democratic Procedures Committee. This is proposed by Ben Meakin and seconded by Jess Lee. It proposes that as there is currently no limit to the membership of the Democratic Procedures Committee, or the DPC, who will be elected later this evening, that a limit of 6 is put on this to stop it getting out of hand. The next motion is on the effective integration of international students. Now, this was proposed at the February GM, but sadly it was closed before the motion had time to be put before the floor. It proposes that international students should be given a fair mix through the university rather than being grouped together. It's thought that this will pass without any problems at all. This proposal is on changing the name of the Guild of Students to Aberystwyth Students' Union. It's entitled End the Confusion, Become a Union. It's proposed by Ben Meakin, the Guild President, seconded by Alan Minifie, the Activities Officer. Should probably pass without too much incident. Earlier in the year, the Guild conducted a poll to which 49% of respondents didn't care, but 31% voted in favour and 20% against. So it's likely that this will go through tonight. The next motion is proposing that the UMCA President be allowed to sit on the University Council. This is in the wake of the last general meeting where it was decided that the Education Officer would be allowed voting rights on the Council, thereby removing the voting rights of the UMCA President. It's also proposed that following this, the Guild should lobby the university for a third place to be introduced on the University Council to allow the Education Officer to sit on it once more. So that will allow the President, the UMCA President and the Education Officer to sit on Council. This motion is on the fight for undergraduate funding, proposed by Andrew Tyndall and seconded by Greg Dash. The proposal says that Aberystwyth Guild of Students should lobby NUS Wales to fight against cuts to undergraduate funding and places at universities. It's in favour of promoting free access to higher education throughout Wales and throughout the rest of the UK. It's suspected this will go through without too many problems tonight, but it has been questioned how successful it will be on a national level. The next motion is on sports and societies. It's proposed by Alan Minifie, outgoing activities officer, and seconded by Jorn Evans, who's taking his position in the next year. It proposes that an executive be created in order to help oversee the activities of the sports and societies clubs around campus in Aberystwyth. This motion is on introducing a Guild zero tolerance policy towards bullying and sexual harassment. That's to include both on campus and online. The proposer is Laura Dickens and it's seconded by Andrew Tyndall. While this, of course, sounds a highly laudable policy, some questions have been raised over the fact that Andrew Tyndall, who helped draw up the motion and will be seconding it tonight, has been accused of breaking the anti-harassment rules he drew up himself. This is in his tweets about Guild President Ben Meakin and includes such gems as, quote, "Has Ben Meakin been set on fire yet? He's an unaccountable scumbag, plain and simple," and repeatedly using the hashtag Meakin women into sex objects in the wake of the Meakin Gate for Aurora earlier this year. The next motion is on the integration of student media within Aberystwyth. This is proposed by Stefan Storch, the current editor of the Courier, and seconded by Blethen Richards, the current station manager of Bay Radio. This is in the wake of recent developments seeing the integration between the various student media groups, and proposes that the floor mandate these developments and proposes that the Guild President should provide a new space for them and lobby to provide increased funding in the block grant and a permanent member of staff who can oversee this.
Those are the proceedings for this evening, but there have been a couple of last-minute changes we should tell you about before the meeting begins. There's going to be a change made to the motion to remove the Education Officer from the University Council in favour of the UMCA Officer while lobbying to reinstate the Education Officer. In order to clear up confusion, it is now going to be proposed simply that the President lobby the University for a third place on Council to allow the President, Education Officer and UMCA Officer to be present. We should also clarify Andrew Tyndall's involvement in the anti-bullying motion. Our original recording states that he helped to draw up the motion on anti-harassment. He has since distanced himself from any contribution to the writing process, insisting that his only involvement was in seconding the motion against bullying and harassment. Remember that you can get involved in tonight's coverage through the live blog available at www.abercourier.com/AGM or tweet using hashtag AberGM. It looks like the meeting's about to start, so I'll hand you over to Guild Chairperson Guy Drury.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's very loud. Okay, so it's pretty much the same saga as last time, but with a slightly different twist this time. The meeting is due to start at 6:15. There was not a quoracy at 6:15, so there were not 100 people here at 6:15. Therefore, we now have to wait until 6:45 in the hope that 100 people might turn up. If 100 people don't turn up, then because this meeting has been previously adjourned, so we've already tried this once before and it's failed, then this meeting will continue regardless of how many people are here. And so we'll just carry on with the meeting. So we have to leave it now until 6:45 to see if any more people turn up, in the hope that they will. But if they don't, then at 6:45 we'll start the meeting, and that will be the meeting then, and we will continue through with the meeting, regardless of numbers. I appreciate that, obviously the long wait now for quarter of an hour for nothing seems a bit pointless, but that's in the rules. And also the fact that we'll be carrying on a meeting with less than 100 people might seem a bit pointless if we've waited a whole week to do this one. But again, that's the rules, that's what we operate under, and that's how it is. So I apologise for the quarter hour wait, we've got to give it the chance for 100 people to get here. But if they don't, then we will be starting at 6:45 and we'll power through then. Thank you.
level up.
Smash.
Yeah, we level up. I'm gonna climb up the levels, go harder. Lights flash every time we go fast. I'll never lose the game, I'm gonna last. So let's start. Yeah, we level up.
All over the radio and back up in the raves again. We got the crowd on the wave like it's a stadium. Call me the weatherman, it's about to be a great weekend. I'm on the cloud, let's make it rain again.
Yeah, we level up.
Nice but naughty shirts and dresses looking saucy. Living in our minuses cause life begins at 40. Level up, call me Bond, James Bond. How I maintain, tell them when it stays on. My brain racing like I'm trying to win the gold for Britain. On a one-track mind, let's go the distance. We're only stopping when we pose for pictures. And now we move so wavy we get motion sickness.
I'm gonna climb up the levels, go harder. Lights flash every time we go fast. I'll never lose the game, I'm gonna last. So let's start. Yeah, we level up.
Feeling like I just won the lotto. Pop a bottle and I make them say like I'm your dentist. Keys to the suite, you can call me Alan Sugar. Yeah, we're firing tonight and I might need an apprentice. Reunion, old school and uni friends. It's your excuse to act like hooligans. Bend and break the rules again. Party's just getting started at 2 a.m. Waking up at noon next to who are you again?
Looking in the mirror and I feel like I'm famous.
I got that glimmer in my eye like I ain't afraid of danger.
Today could be the day that everything changes.
I'm trying to move up to the hills where idols become neighbors.
One moment
Your whole world rearranges. You're feeling like you graduated Oxford or Cambridge.
Forever
Roll the
rolling
dice and have it looking like Vegas. You win some, you lose some, but only winners take risks.
Start getting
Calls I've been waiting on for ages. Phone starts popping and I'm gossiping with strangers.
In and out of box and
I'm out getting wasted. All of these flashing lights popping up in places.
Always forgetting
Names,
only
especially
remember
with ladies.
places.
What's your name again? Your name again? Your name again? My house, lights out. Wake up in the tea, saying touch me, I'm famous. Hey stranger, where you been? Where you been? Long time no see. I'm in the game, play to win,
Another round on me. Yeah, we level up.
Get 'em
I'm
on.
gonna climb up the levels, go harder. Lights flash every time we go fast. I'll never lose the game, I'm gonna last. So let's start. Yeah, we level up.
Finished copy of the booklets. Then there are some here we've got copied again. So if you want one, come and grab one. And there's some at the back as well, I think.
January calls round to find me alone in this place where I've been living. My real home lives down the river where she's making circles with her teeth.
To decide that the things that I tried were in my life just to get high on. When I sit alone, come get a little known, but I need more than myself this time. Step from the road to the sea to the sky, and I do believe that we rely on. When I lay it on, come get to play it on, all my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh, I got your head. Now listen what I say, oh, oh. When will I know that I really can go to the well once more? Time to decide on. When it's killing me, when will I really see all that I need to look inside? Come to believe that I better not leave before I die. When it's killing me, what do I really need? All that I need to look inside. Hey, oh, listen what I say. Come back and Hey, oh, look at what I say. Oh. The more I see, the less I know, the more I like to let it go. Hey, oh, whoa, whoa. Deep beneath the cover of another perfect wonder, where it's so white as snow, privately divided by a world so undecided, and there's nowhere to go. In between the cover of another perfect wonder, and it's so white as snow, running through the field where all my tracks will be concealed, and there's nowhere to go. Oh! When to descend to amend for a friend all the channels that have broken down. Now you bring it up, I'm gonna ring it up just to hear you sing it out. Step from the road to the sea to the sky, and I do believe what we rely on. When I lay it on, come get to play it on, all my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say. Oh, I got your hey, oh, listen what I say. Oh, the more I see, the less I know, the more I like to let it go. Hey, oh, whoa, whoa. Deep beneath the cover of another perfect wonder, where it's so white as snow, privately divided by a world so undecided, and there's nowhere to go. In between the cover Lisa likes brandy and the way it hits her lips. She's a rock and roll survivor with pendulum hips. She's got deep brown eyes that have seen it all. Working at a nightclub that was called the Avenue. The barman used to call her Little Lisa Looney Tune. She went down on almost anyone. But from the hard time living till the Chelsea days, from when her hair was sweet blonde till the day it turned gray, she said Lifegoeson. You got more than money and sense, my friend. You got heart and you go in your own way. Lifegoeson. What you don't have now will come back again. You got heart and you go in your own way. Some people wear the history like a map on their face, and Joey was an artist just living out a case, but his best work was his letters home. Extended works of fiction about imaginary success, when chorus girls and neon were his closest thing to friends. But to a writer, the truth is no big deal. And from the hard time living to the sleepless nights and the black and blue body from the weekend fights, you'd say Lifegoeson. Got more than money and sense, my friend. You got heart and you go in your own way. Lifegoeson. What you don't have now will come back again. You got heart and you go in your own way. On my last night on earth, I won't look to the sky, just breathe in the air and blink in the light. On my last night on earth.
Okay. Because there's no point in waiting 5 more minutes, because 25 people aren't going to magically appear out of thin air, we're going to go ahead and start now. So, just to remind people on the basis, it's section 35, clause 35 of the Constitution, which is that this meeting has been adjourned once, so therefore the second time is adjourned. If the quorum is not present within half an hour of the time appointed at the start of the meeting, then the members present shall be a quorum. Therefore, we are a quorum, and that's how the Constitution works. So, we can now go ahead with the meeting. So, the first thing is welcome and apologies from officers. I received no apologies from officers. I'd first like to apologise. Jess Lee, our education officer, planned to be here last week. She can't be here this week because she's on annual leave. Tammy's going to say a few words for her, and if you've got any questions, then you can email them to me, and we'll do sort of a written question system if that works. Firstly, apologies for no free drinks available tonight. It's sort of illegal what we did last week, so that's not going to be happening again. There's a fair amount to get through tonight's meetings. We're going to go as quickly as possible because obviously you don't want to get off to reloads and fun things like that. So in addition to the usual full-time officer reports and motions, we also have the accounts to receive, auditors to appoint, and affiliations to approve. We would also in theory be holding 2 elections, the Democratic Procedures Committee and the Elections Committee. So far I've received 3 names for the DPC and 2 names for the Elections Committee. So unless we get more than the number on the committee, then there won't be elections and those people will be elected. If anyone else in this room would like to nominate themselves, you can do so by just quickly writing your name and the committee you'd like to stand for on a piece of paper and handing it to one of the people in purple polo shirts. And any unfilled places tonight will hold a by-election at the first meeting of next year for them. Does anyone not have headphones translation and want them? If you do, they're at the back. A very quick reminder that tonight's proceedings are being broadcast live over the web by our student media organisations. So if you could try and avoid any accidental swearing in speeches, that'd be great. And if you are involved in a motion, if you could stick around at the end and give them a quick interview, then that'd be great as well. I think we're going to power through this absolutely as quickly as we can, but if we are still going at 9, then we might have to look at adjourning, but I really don't even want to consider that this time because we already adjourned once, and that would be quite silly. As it says in the booklets on the screens, if any time you've got any questions about what's going on, then either text the number that's given on the booklet or ask one of the members of the Democratic Procedures Committee in the wonderful purple polo shirts dotted around the room. If you are asking a question or speaking from the floor, then please stand up so the cameras can see who's talking. And if you can quickly say your name, it'd be appreciated for the minutes as well. Lastly, tonight is the last general meeting to be minuted by Tom Jones, our multi-talented receptionist and minute taker. Anyone who's come... Anyone who has come into the Guild looking for someone or something over the last 2 years will have probably encountered Tom at some point. He's done an amazing job at minuting long and complicated meetings for us over the years, and we owe him a huge amount. Thank you, Tom. So the first matter is the approval of minutes from the last AGM. That is the AGM held last year, so held in 2011. That's the way we roll. So those minutes are up for approval. Any objections? Passed. Opening of nominations to the Democratic Procedures Committee and Elections Committee. Again, if anyone wants to stand, you can write your name down. There's a free page on the back of the booklet, and give it to one of the people in purple polo shirts, and then we'll deal with that then. Next, the receipt of accounts for 2010-11. These are the accounts that started in June 2010 and finished in July 2011. That's the soonest we have the accounts available because that's the accounting period we work on. So we're just receiving those formally, and you've got the booklets with you. There's no vote on that. The fifth motion is the appointment of auditors. The General and Finance Committee of the Guild recommend that we reappoint KPMG LLP as auditors of the Guild. Does anyone have any objections? That's passed. And the next item is the approval of affiliations to external bodies. The only body we're affiliated to is the National Union of Students. This year, the affiliation fee was £26,064.05. And as our block grant has not changed, we expect next year's fee to be of a similar level. A vote against affiliation now would not have the effect of disaffiliating instantly, as NUS require a referendum to be held before they recognise a decision to disaffiliate. The motion, therefore, is that the affiliation be approved for the 2012-13 academic year. Anyone have any objections? If you want to take it to a debate, we can do that. Okay, in that case, the motion is passed. We now move to the full-time officer reports and questions. Ben Meakin, President.
Right then. Cool. It's not very high. I'm not a very tall person. I'll make it higher. Cool. So it's been an interesting year. It's probably the best way to describe it. Unfortunately, I won't say loads because it says most of this in the booklets. The commercial arm of the Guild still seems to sort of take a downward spiral. And it's come to the point where we need to take drastic action, and a review is underway, which will lead to substantial change over the summer period. I can't really say anything else other than that because it's sort of still in the process of happening. The whole coffee shop thing is ongoing. The sort of shake-up in the estates department in the university and the fact that procurements in the university seem to take a good 3 months have had a major effect on that, plus the fact that there's a small chance we might now have more funding than we originally had. So with that in mind, I'd rather put the coffee shop idea on hold and look at building it into something a lot bigger over summer, because there's no point in building something small if we've got the opportunity to do a lot bigger things. So that's about the commercial stuff. The Aber experience plan we produced, a lot of you might have read that online, was basically sort of realising the fact that student unions, the higher education landscape in general is changing, and student unions need to change in line with that. And the Guild, as you can see, hasn't really changed in quite a long time. So it was a bit of a visionary document in what we saw was the direction to take the Guild for the next however many years. Off the back of that, currently the university generally accepted that in terms of, we need a bit more funding, and we can't obviously rely on a commercial arm, because obviously we've seen that is going in a downward spiral. And we're in the process of writing a strategic plan to go with that, which will basically put the flesh on the bones to take to the university, which ideally will sort of give us the chance to say we need to be funding more, because we're not in a position anymore where everyone's coming and boozing and funding student unions that way. So we just don't live in that era anymore. So yeah, with that in mind, like I've said in the booklet, and the figures book that's in here shows that our charity side takes around £800,000 to run, and our block count is currently 560. So the very least I'm going to be going to the university and shouting and kicking at the doors about is getting that extra 200 grand. in our block grants so that we can stop cutting away at like core services that we offer in the Guild and actually start enhancing stuff again. What else are we doing? As you all are very aware, I've been working alongside the Guild Chair and our staff member for student representation, wherever he is, somewhere, on getting all of the systems in place for the new assembly structure, the new democratic structure. Obviously, GMs have shown that they're not the best structure this year, but at the same time, it's shown that we need to be really prepared and plan and have everything planned out with the democratic structure. So, we're now in the process of setting out when assemblies will be, like in the next academic year, because we want to be, we want everything to work extremely well with that new system. So fingers crossed it does. What else? Some of you might have also seen I've kicked off a petition to put a bit of pressure on the Welsh Government to bring in an hourly train service into Aberystwyth. There's a lot of logistical stuff sort of that we need to look into in terms of like Network Rail and Aberytwyth and various other stakeholders that can influence that. But at the same time, I don't really see any reason why we can't just put a bit of pressure on the Welsh Government, because it was something that was in the National Transport Plan and now it's sort of being shelved to 2015 maybe if they want to sort of sort that out. And I also went to NUS National Conference and there was a lot of interesting stuff there including going on a national demo, which we're going to be working over summer on supporting that, but also, like I've said in the booklet, I'd quite like to do something Wales-based as well, because obviously education in Wales has devolved, and as well as supporting all the marches and demos and stuff that are going on in England. I think it'd also be good to actually do something Wales-centric, since that we are a Welsh university. I'll let you read into everything else in the booklet, but finally, since that we are at the AGM, thanks to all the SABs and the part-time officers this year, especially those who are leaving us to go on to pastures new. Sad times. Everyone's done a really fantastic job this year, especially with all the sort of turbulent things that have been going on in the Guild. So yeah, that's about me. Any questions? There's going to be questions. Oh, hey. Who wants to go first? Should we go in alphabetical order? Or?
Andrew first.
Is that on? Is the mic on?
Go for it.
Yeah, given the summer funding now on hold, how much will spend in Europe to the way time using that? Different time using now on hold.
How much was spent with Starbucks?
Like in the run-up to preparing for
Nothing's been spent yet. The published the business plan for Starbucks. Theoretically, I haven't really thought about that. Okay. So you want me to publish something that's not relevant? So yeah, I'll look into that. I don't say any reason why. Who's next?
Kieran.
No, just speak up.
Ben,
Yes.
What is your bigger and better plan?
Where in reference to what? Sorry.
In reference to disabling Starbucks for something bigger and better, what is it? And
Well, it's sort of
will it be put to the democratic floor or the quasi-democratic representative floor? Come October.
I'm just going to throw it out there and say no, purely on the basis that we're going through, like I said, we're going through a commercial review. That's an external commercial review by somebody who works in, there's not a lot I can really say, that works in turning student union commercial arms around. And whatever we do with the potential funding, that it's a figure around, we're hoping around £180,000, will go into more of a case of improving the actual structure of part of the building rather than just adding something to it. So it's more down the lines of, the coffee shop idea was all about diversity of trade. It'll basically expand in that. So we're looking into the possibilities of maybe incorporating some sort of a greater food outlet that we currently offer, and one that we run as well, because at the moment the underground is run by the RHS, the university, so we don't actually see any benefit from that. There's the potential that the university could stop running that, and then we could run a food facility alongside what we already run. So it's more in that sort of general direction.
Rob.
Rob Harbour. I'm just curious what progress has been made on bringing German beer into beer keller events. What's been done on getting Bunter Pony behind the bar and kind of the promotion of real ale? So just general drink-based curiosity.
Class. The German beer thing, the motions have been sent to our commercial services department, or whatever you want to call it. I believe with the actual beer itself, the thing that is the German beer that stops it is it's dependent on what the people who provide our alcohol stop, because I don't think we can go externally from them. I think that's the issue. But what was the other one? The general. In fact, it all generally ties into the. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that is happening. The Ubuntu Cola should have happened as far as I'm aware. Does it not happen? I don't buy Ubuntu Cola.
ABC.
Right. Okay. That should have happened. That was something that was raised at the last Board of Trustees meeting, and I thought it had already happened. So,
Thank you. Lee, the Education Officer. As I explained, Jess can't be here tonight because she's on annual leave. If anyone does have any questions for her, then they can email those to union.chairperson, and I will ensure they're answered regardless of gender. I think Tammy wants to say a few words. Sorry, Tammy is there on Jess's behalf.
Yeah, Jess sent an apology. She can't be here tonight because she is off work. But she did send through a particular thank you to Dorothy. I'm not sure if she's here or if she is here, where she is. Yeah, Dorothy. Jess, you've helped her a lot this year, and it's greatly appreciated, so she wants you to have that. And also to the SAB team as well, she wanted to thank us for, she has had an easy year, and she wanted to thank us for our support and help as well. I would try and do a northern accent, not great, so I'm just going to stop there. I'm not sure if she is watching or not, so yeah, please do forward your questions, because she would want them, but sadly I can't answer them. Okay, so that's it.
Alan Minifee, Activities Officer. For the final time.
I prepared a long speech for tonight to change from. I'm going to start. I'm going to finish how I started by keeping it short. I'm not really going to go into a huge amount of detail about everything tonight, but I will give you a quick rundown, like I've said in the report. We've just had Rugby Sevens, which was a fantastic weekend for everyone. We had over 1,000 players down on Blan. Even one of our referees are in the house tonight, so thank you very much for turning up and helping us out. It was a fantastic event, one of the flagship events for the Guild, so it went down really well. Other than that, we had Sport and Societies Councils last week. Thank you very much for everyone who turned up to get a bit of feedback on how it's going within activities. One update, I did have a bit of a conversation with the States the other day. We're looking at some, we haven't got any options for permanent storage at this moment in time for sports and societies. So we will be looking at maybe some temporary storage over the summer for you all to bring your stuff, which you can find. The States has just been a nightmare to me at the moment. It's just them at the moment. On going back to the councils, we did pass a couple of new things, which I haven't had a chance to put out yet, but I will blog about them in the coming week because we were raising Rugby Sevens straight after them. Empty rooms. I've started trying to find out how to book some of the empty rooms that are around the university. Places like law replace their music room and that sort of stuff for societies to come and book. At the moment they're not very receptive as people want to keep the rooms to themselves, but I am going to try and find some more rooms for societies to book, especially as a lot of drama societies are struggling for space at this moment in time. Updating captain's backs and questions for Dan and that. I feel like I'm going on a bit. So we'll be updating all the stuff, which was a major bugbear, especially for societies. A lot of the stuff on the Go website wasn't updated, so I'm going to try and update that in the coming week. We're organising AU dinner, and we've got a motion coming in later on, which I'll explain in a bit. I just want to say thank you very much to Johan and Dan for helping me out this year, part-time, and obviously the rest of the exec for all their hard work. And I want to thank you all for giving me a hand for the last 2 years, and thanks to the SABs. So, peace out.
Rob Hardware.
Is this? Okay, it's working. Great. Yeah, I just thought that I should ask you a question, because since this whole time here, I don't think anyone's really ever asked you. So, what do you think your biggest success has been?
Probably keeping my job.
Thank you very much, Alan. Now Tammy Hawkins, the IMCA President and Welsh Affairs Officer.
Yeah, it's headphone time. Oh, yeah. Christ. I want to do another test to see that you can all hear it, so I just put on ASAP. Cool, yeah, okay, so I'll switch to Welsh. Yeah, wedi ddim gormod achos mae adroddiad fi'n yn eitha hir yn y llyfryn. Mae lot I weid am IMCA achos mae fe'n un o'r, wel, y rôl falle sy'n lleiaf hun yn esboniadwy, really. Mae lot yn digwydd lawr am panti a pethau sydd ddim wastad yn cael eu cydnabod lan fan hyn. Ond mae fe gyd yn y bwcled. Gallai weid mwy, ond fi'n gobeithio wneud blog ddwyieithog ar ddiwedd y flwyddyn, jyst I siarad chydig bach mwy am pethau mwy penodol o fewn IMCA yn lle jyst y digwyddiadau, so na I ni cyn bo hir. Ond ie, just diolch, really, yn fawr iawn I chi, ac yn enwedig i'r SABs ac i'r execfyd. Wedi bod yn blwyddyn heriol iawn lenni, yn enwedig ar yr iaith Gymraeg, a mae'r gwelliant wedi bod yn eithriadol. Oedd e'n strygl bach oherwydd absenoldeb swyddogaeth Gymraeg, so diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd am y cymorth. Tries i'n orau I wneud falle stepiau bach lenni, gyda'r gobeith wnaeth plantio chydig o hadau I datblygu, a fi'n siŵr bydd y llywydd IMCA newydd yn wneud nhw, a fi'n hollol siŵr neiffi. So ie, allai dymuno pob lwc I Carys ac I Jacob, llywydd IMCA a swyddogaeth Cymraeg newydd. Fi'n siŵr newch chi job ffantastig so llongyfarchiadau to, a diolch chi am eich help. And just really quickly in English, because I know a lot of you haven't got headphones, I just sort of thanked the SAB team and the exec for all their support this year. It's been a great year, and thank you all as well. Challenging year with the Welsh language, and with the absence of the Welsh language officer, made it a bit more challenging, but I really have been supported, and I sort of have planted little things this year that will definitely develop, and I'm more than confident that Carys and Jacob will do that. So best of luck to everyone who's staying. Thank you to everyone who's going and staying, and more so, good luck to Carys and Jacob next year. Diolch.
Thank you, Sammy. Have any questions for Sammy? Jeff has a question.
Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, boy.
Hoffwn I ofyn yn arbennig at y cadeirydd pan fod hwn yn union Saesneg a nid oes fersiwn Cymraeg. Wyt ti'n meddwl bod hwn yn debynion mewn prifysgol yn Cymru?
Right.
Firstly, is that a question to Tammy? If it's a point of order, you could raise it as a point of order.
It's a point of order. He wants to know why this particular booklet.
Yeah. Firstly, I apologise for the fact I don't have the headphones. I can't physically pull it up towards me, and that won't happen again. Yes, the booklet was produced by the Guild. I asked for the accounts to be produced, and they were produced in English only. I don't believe they even exist in Welsh, possibly because of the technical nature of the accounts. However, I understand that's not acceptable. That's a staff matter because they're produced by the Finance Office, but I will raise that with them because you're absolutely right, they do need to be produced in Welsh, and it's unacceptable that they're not.
and this wasn't something I overseen, and we said to Jacob earlier that maybe a closer relationship would work so that we could oversee these things beforehand and it wouldn't be a shock then to everybody, but yeah, I'm sure, you know, it was just a staff error. Yeah, anything else? Pop it down. Good.
Thank you, Sammy. And the final officer report is from Tom Baumeister, Student Support Officer.
Right, I'm going to do the opposite of everyone else and go, aha, I'm not going to be so slow. I'm going to read my entire report, because I don't actually believe any of you really read it. I'm sure some of you do, but anyway. It's just because I spent a while writing it, and it just felt like an emotional way, and I've got some extra bits anyway. So anyway, as my final report, my year as a student support officer, this summation of my job feels like quite an emotional process, and woefully inadequate. I will admit that there have been plenty of things that I didn't get done, that I said I would, and there are things that I know about now needing more attention than I have given them. However, I have been doing something, and while many battles are still to be won, the front lines have progressed somewhat in the right direction. Firstly, student housing, probably the biggest issue I have had to deal with this year. When we found out that the university had massively oversubscribed, I knew that the repercussions of this would shape my year to come. So from creating the Housing Crisis Centre, Fools Rush In, and the Housing Fair, and even attempts to get you voting in the local council elections, I've tried to do all I can to inform you on housing issues, provide a competent housing advice service, and reframe the debate for the future. We must use council services and aim for higher standards, and we need to work with the university in implementing smart ideas. I don't necessarily mean, well, maybe measurable, smart ideas, and an investment to manage the problem from our end. This means more and better joined-up advertising and support for events like Housing Fair, Fools Rush In, and genuinely trying new ideas like rating sites or accreditation. And now I've got a thing here saying, vote on Thursday. But we didn't have that last week, so that's irrelevant now. And I hope you did vote last Thursday. Other primary area I've worked on this year has been student mental health. This has started a petition around World Mental Health Day and garnered 400 signatures. Presented at the Student Support Committee, I would like to believe that this has had the consequential effect that they are now intending to hire a qualified mental health nurse for the University Medical Centre, which I think is an amazing win if it is actually going to happen. Although this is essential now, admittedly, that the proportion of cases they are receiving that are mental health based is now approaching 80%. Furthermore, I have been engaged with the third sector providers in mental health like Mind and West Wales Action on Mental Health, WAM. These relationships are going to be invaluable for my successor, and I've been bringing them along to them to take forward, with plans for a student mental health forum and a Mind Your Head cafe sessions still to be played out. Also in the future, it is likely that within the next year that the university will eventually take on the counselling services that are at the moment housed within the Guild. While there is a lot of work to be done to ensure the standard of service is maintained, I have said from the beginning that I could not understand why the only counselling service on campus was provided for by the Guild. It should be a core university wellness service and will benefit both from their funding and also our ability to scrutinise the quality and the quantity of the service without it being attached to our budget sheet and our management. Finally, it goes to mention all the other welfare activities that have been going on with this job. For me, that meant selling cheap cereal bars and water to you during the exam season, and I intend to do a water wagon at least for this exam season, and maybe a chill-out zone in the Union. Organising Freshers Heroes with my own little spin with Heroes of the Night and Freshers Gaming Lounge, and running international student trips, where I just came back from Stratford-upon-Avon with 30 students, which was great fun, and I think they really enjoyed it. This and more has been done on a backdrop of a steady flow of casework, and I've done all I can to support students in the welfare problems they've had. I'm just adding two other wins that just happened last week. I had a meeting about fourth year postgraduate status, where they're looking now at reducing the continuation fees in their fourth year from £350 a year to £100 a year, and they're moving to a consistent postgraduate model with a single year master's and PhD sold as 3.5 year courses to ensure registration will go on for that extra 6 months that people need to finish their PhD thesis without having to pay council tax. However, in the short term, this won't exist until they put the new regime in 3 years' time, it'll only work when they start advertising for those PhDs. With the people in the short term, we're looking. The university management needs to engage better. Is going to engage with Ceredigion County Council executive on this, and then from the bottom side, me and the academic office are going to sit down with the relevant person we can find in the council and tackle it from both ends to try and get some kind of agreement worked up with the university about council tax for fourth-year PhD students. Also, then, the other one is the passport office, which I was yelling about in the very first GM, where the council denied planning permission to the passport office being turned into 50 residential student 50 resident beds, student accommodation, 50 beds. On the day of the last GM, or the AGM that didn't happen anyway, I spent all day sitting in on a hearing about that decision from the permission, and it was, I'm pretty sure, that it's going to go through now, that we basically appealed the case. I ensured the student voice was heard, and kind of both me and Laura, so we had the future one there, was stood firm and compassionately against basically residents groups who were trying to demonise students, and we were trying to basically countering what their claims were about what students were like in Aberystwyth and what could happen there. Trying to prevent this vital development from going to fruition. After discussing with Cantref, the developers afterwards, I quietly confident that this will actually happen now, and then by January 2013 we'll actually have 50 new beds in town in private halls, which is great because it would be competition for university residences as well, and it's going to happen before the 2014 Pengleis Farm. So I think that's a great win. Anyway, what's the last bit? It's been a tough, enlightening, but also optimistic year. I feel I've learned much about myself as I have about the Guild and the university. I wish all my fellow executive officers, present and future, all the best in their endeavours, and I look forward to visiting Aberystwyth in years to come to see how this movement will have changed, for the better, I hope, and will be proud if whatever small way I can say I contributed. Farewell, Aberystwyth students. This is now Poncholess Tom signing off. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Adam Robertson.
First, I want to congratulate you, Tom, for a tough year. You've done really well. However, I want to raise the issue of mental health practitioners in Aberystwyth. I met with Susan Rees-Williams, and she was telling me there's no space in the big three surgeries in Aberystwyth to host her. I wonder if you and your successor, Laura, could chase that up and try and force the council to deliver on this lack of inequality.
Definitely.
Just to clarify first, please. Sorry. Thank you. Just to clarify, the question was, there's no space in mental health practice in Aberystwyth, so what are we going to do about this?
Well, what are we going to do about it? Well, I mean, I think it's a case of engaging with the council more. It's engaging with the Hywel Dda Health Board as well. And it's about syncing up all the different fights around health in this area. So that's from saving Brongais Hospital to the daycare centre to mental health provision. And it's about getting the residents on side as much as it is about students fighting their battles that are to their benefit. We've got to fight the residents' battles as well. I think we've got to see it all together and work together. And I think it can be done. Looking at the strategic plan that we're laying out, it's going to be happening more, hopefully, especially if we have these community reps that are going to be elected into posts in the new year. That will really enable Laura, who in my position, to have a lot more bigger networked presence within community health, any kind of relation where they go out and talk to people. We are there ensuring that the student voice is heard, but also in helping the residents in their battles as well. But definitely something I will look into. Can you make sure you send me an email about that with the specifics, because I didn't know about that, and that's great.
Any further questions for Tom? Thank you. We now move to the motions. First, I'd like to apologise. In the English booklet, the order of motions is incorrect. This was only noticed after we printed however many of them there were, about 80 of them there were. I apologise for that. The Welsh one is correct because I caught that before it happened. So you will have to chop and change. I'm very sorry about that, but we couldn't reprint 80 booklets once we noticed. So the first motion is Democratic Procedures Committee, limit on membership, proposed by Ben Meakin, President, and seconded by Jess Lee, Education Officer.
Cool beans. This one pretty much does what it says on the tin. At the moment, the Constitution doesn't have a limit on the amount of Democratic Procedure Committee members that we can have, which is a bit stupid. So let's put a limit.
Does anyone wish to speak against this motion? So are there any questions for the proposer first? My apologies. Anyone want to speak against? In which case, put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? Motion clearly passes by show of hands. Thank you. The second motion is effective integration of international students. This motion should have been brought forward a number of GMs ago, but for various reasons it was lost and then not reached. It's proposed by Dorothy Butner and seconded by Jess Lee, Education Officer.
Hello everyone. So international students have been approaching me because they've been grouped together in housing and seminar groups. So this motion actually says that all academic departments should have one policy that ensures that international students get integrated within, and get grouped together with British students, because that's what they're here for. They want to speak English. They want to find friends from all around the world and not only from their country. So please vote for my motion. Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions to the proposer? And anyone wish to speak against? In which case we take the motion to... And the third motion is End the Confusion, Become a Union, proposed by Ben Meakin, President, and seconded by Alan Minifee, Activities Officer.
Cool. This one also pretty much does what it says on the tin. At the moment, we are called Aberystwyth University Guild of Students on paper. The catalyst to this motion was when I was stood in reception and there was an open day tour going on, and then a student ambassador walked in with a group of prospective students and sort of said, here is this big room and this small bar here is the Students' Union of Aberystwyth, and then you sort of walk through this big room and there's some doors at the back and you go through there and that's the Guild of Students. And I thought that's pretty much summed up the confusion of the fact that most students expect to go to a university and expect a Students' Union, but then they come to Aberystwyth and get a Guild of Students, which seems to confuse things. As well as ending the confusion, it also, I think, with all the changes that are going to be going on over summer, and the fact that at the moment the building and everything about the Guild of Students is tarnished with the fact that the Guild isn't very relevant to a lot of students at the moment, and I think changing the name to become a Students' Union acts as a really good catalyst to push through a lot of the changes over summer and come out as much stronger and much more relevant student organisation in the next academic year.
Any questions for Ben? Behind Adam first.
Hello, Greg Dash. Yeah, I understand the purpose of the rebranding. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. I understand the purpose of the rebranding. I'm just worried, I'm really just interested in how much time this will actually take from your schedule. And I assume you is going to be responsible for it.
I think, personally me, I won't be going around changing the signage, changing everything that's got. I can't really imagine it's going to take that long. It's simply a case of stop printing Guild of Students on everything and start printing Student Union on everything. Other than we've spoken to the university about passing it through their, at which level of governing structure it needs to go through for the university, because it does involve a name change of the university's name as well as our organisation's name. As far as they're concerned, it will go to the senior management team, who will then...
Next question.
Phases of signage, I think, around the building. So there's already a fund to redo all the signage anyway. So it'll just be a case of that in line, and that's all been put on hold. So that budget will be used and
Next question. Can this mic be left on, please? Thank you. Andrew Tyndall. No, stand up and speak. The question is, what will be done in terms of the website, in terms of a news domain, and things like that?
Class. We've already looked into potential domain names. I'm meeting, along with some members of staff and the other SABs, a company tomorrow in terms of sort of redoing the whole website over summer. It's the same company that around 40% of student unions around the country use. So fingers crossed, it'll mean that this whole sort of rebrand will coincide with the relaunch of a website, which will come into place in the next academic year. Any more questions?
Further questions? Ainsley? Will there be a new logo?
Yeah.
The old logo associates with the Guild very heavily, and if we kill it off, then we'll be starting again.
Yeah, yeah, theoretically. Yeah. I mean, we've already sort of started trying to get away from the logo, which seems to have like the flames of hell in the background, towards using more just a block colour and get away from that 80s vibe that it's got. Not there's anything wrong with the 80s, but.
Any further questions for the proposer? Will there be a consultation with students?
In terms of like design and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean definitely. This is something that will because of the way that it's fallen. It's something that will probably run online in terms of trying to push it through social media, because obviously a lot of students won't be here, so we can't push it here. But in terms of getting like design proofs up and pushing them out and seeing what people would like, then yeah, obviously we'll start trying to go down that route as soon as possible if this motion goes through, in order to get things in place by the time the mail outs go out to new students. So, yeah.
Adam Robertson? Should there be a referendum on this because it's a name change?
Are you asking that in terms of, is that in the Constitution, or I don't?
Do you want to ask that as a point of order to me, or no? There's nothing in the Constitution that would require a referendum for something like this.
Cool. Anyone else?
Any further questions for Ben? Does anyone wish to speak against this motion? In which case we take the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? The motion clearly passes by show of hands. The fourth motion is IMCA President to sit on Council, proposed by Ben Meakin, President, and seconded by Tom Burmaster, Student Support Officer. Can I ask that someone come and adjust this mic so it's a bit higher up, please?
Do you want me to do it? I think. Yeah, wishing. Are we good to go? Pretty much this, I'm going to hold my hands up and say the motion that we put forward regarding the seats that sit on council was fairly rushed before. And there's also an amendment that I'm going to come to on this motion, because I can make it even easier than it is in paper. But pretty much there's a better way of doing it than we said previously, which was to like jiggle things around so that we could have education officer on council. Yeah, so, but it sort of doesn't make sense until the amendment.
There's an important amendment which needs to be moved, so if anyone has any questions immediately now, they could ask them, or we can wait for the amendment to be moved, which will explain how the motion will go further. Does anyone wish to speak against this motion as it stands at the moment? It's vital we put the amendment first because it changes the effects of the motion, so if we deal with the amendment first, and then we'll see where we stand.
Okay. The amendments to remove resolves 2 to 9. 9? No, there's not 9 resolves there, is there? Nope. 2 to 4. Basically, the amendment...
2 to 9.
2 to 9. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Crazy. Yeah, it basically means that the motion would be for me to lobby for 3 places on the university's counselling body rather than 2, which theoretically is the motion that I should have put forward in the first place, and I don't know why I didn't. So, in light of... I don't think we'll have any problems in lobbying the university to get 3 places. There was a recent circular that the Funding Council for Wales released stating that there needs to be increased representation of student unions on university committees, and the university, quite frankly, are quite scared of the Funding Council because that's where they get all their money from. So if I go in waving that circular around, then it's probably going to be pretty easy to get those 3 places. So yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify for those who are confused by this, the first motion would have reinstated the Welsh Affairs Officer and IMCA President immediately instead of the Education Officer. The amendment is to leave the Education Officer on council and merely... My apologies, let me just check what I'm saying first.
Yeah. Everyone gets a point, girl.
Yeah, Resolves 1 is slightly confusingly worded because the effect will be to allow the Welsh Affairs Officer and IMCA President to attend and vote at council because what's happening at the moment is that the Education Officer is. The effect of the amendment will be to keep the Education Officer doing that, and the Welsh Affairs Officer and IMCA President won't be re-added if this amendment passes. We'll just be lobbying to allow them to be re-added if this amendment passes. Does anyone have any questions on the amendment or the motion? Just technical ones they want to get clarified first. That's the original motion. The effect of the amendment will be to take out 2 to 9, so the IMCA President won't be reinstated, and the Education Officer will stay on council, and the Guild will merely lobby for the IMCA President to be reinstated.
So we'd have three...
That would be the effect of the amendment. Do you have any further technical questions on that? Adam? Yes, it will, yes. It will need a 75% majority to pass, yes. Does anyone have any further technical questions on the amendment or motion? Tammy?
Do you want to add that to the... You can't amend an amendment, can you?
No, just goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I'm fairly confident that those 3 places will exist, especially due to the...
Is there any further technical questions on the motion and the amendment, how they're working? Okay, in which case, does anyone have any questions for the amendment in general to Ben? Rob Hardware.
Yeah, I was just wondering, wouldn't it make more sense... oh, Jesus Christ. Wouldn't it make more sense to just have a Welsh representative and then the president on there and then try to lobby for the education officer as opposed to the other way around? I mean, I think that's kind of how it was originally, and then just try and push for the education. That's, I mean, yeah.
So
How do you feel about that?
That would be the original motion without the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay, so vote the amendment down.
A question from Tom Burmeister.
Even though I seconded the motion. I also thought, the thing is about the original thing when we were talking about lobbying, I thought we were going to have it like as a rolling SAB seat, that it wouldn't necessarily just be the education one. The education, because...
It's not possible to have it as an open seat, it has to be a person.
Okay. Bugger. I always wanted to sit on council, they wouldn't let me.
Thank you. Any further questions to the proposer?
I've just been said now. What gives the education officer priority over any other SAB? Shouldn't it be lobbying for all SABs to have a position on the council rather than just a certain amount of SABs?
I'd want to say, like, let's walk before we run. I'd love to have all... There was an email went through on the US thread saying that... oh, sorry. Basically, I'd love for all 5 officers to sit on council because it would mean that we'd have a strong student representation on council. But I think, in light of the fact that the almost unique position that Aberystwyth sits in the fact that we do hold Welsh priorities. It's such a high standard in terms of representation that Welsh students need a voice on council, but at the same time, we're also one of the only student or universities where education officer doesn't sit on council because we're an educational body. So I think lobbying for the 3 is a good first step. If that's easily received, then there's no reason why I can't keep pushing for the 5.
Question from Ainsley.
Do you think it would be easier to lobby for the education officer to be put on council at council, or do you feel it would be easier to add UMCA to it? The only reason I ask is you've already quoted statistics at this meeting and the previous one where the education officer is at virtually every council in the country, whereas the Guild made a decision to remove the UMCA president from it, which is something the university can very easily throw back in your face and say, well, you chose to remove them, so why do you want them back? So I think, well...
What was the question? I don't...
Do you not think it would be easier to lobby for education officer to be differently on council than getting stuff to
So is that the motion?
That'd be the original motion.
That's the original motion. Just because 3 representatives is better than 2 would be my argument.
We need to have questions and not debate. A further question, perhaps?
Right. I don't think it will be difficult to lobby for IMCA to be a 3rd place at all. No. No.
Any further questions for Ben? Anyone wish to speak against this amendment? Yeah.
Well, I personally think we should stick to the motion as it is, because IMCA always has had a seat on the council, and if we're just reverting and tit-tatting back, whereas, as is said already, the statistics prove that every other student representative in any other institution across Wales has an education officer, and they do not have a Welsh Affairs officer. Therefore, it would be a lot easier, and I completely agree with, with Ainsley, that it would be much easier to lobby for an education officer rather than a Welsh Affairs officer. And also, if you look at representations currently being made from higher up in the university, there's strong support to retain a Welsh representative for Welsh in IMCA affairs, and I don't think we should be going against that. Thank you.
Does anyone further wish to speak for or against the amendment? So any questions to the opposition? Does anyone further wish to speak for or against the amendment? In which case we take the amendment to a vote. So I just want to clarify the amendment. The amendment will be to remove 2 to 9, and in section 1, for the words education officer, insert IMCA president and Welsh Affairs officer. So the effect of the amendment will be to leave the education officer on council and to lobby for a 3rd place for the IMCA president and Welsh Affairs officer. If the amendment doesn't pass, then the IMCA president and Welsh Affairs officer will go on council and will then be lobbying for a 3rd place for the education officer. So we're going to take the amendment to the vote first, which is for the education officer to stay on council. So if you're in favour of that amendment, raise your hand. And all those against? The amendment clearly fails. Therefore, the motion is as on the order paper, as in the booklet. We take, therefore, any further amendments to the motion? Yeah, the motion now is as it is in your booklet, and that is for the IMCA president and Welsh Affairs officer to go on council, the education officer to come off, and for the Guild to lobby for the education officer to go back on. Any further questions about this? I do appreciate it's quite technical. In which case we take the main motion, as on the order paper, to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? And any abstentions? in which case the motion clearly passes. Fifth motion is Fight for Undergraduate Funding, proposed by Andrew Tyndall and seconded by Greg Dash.
All right, fun times. Basically, last month it was announced that undergraduate funding is being cut by 20.6% here at Aberystwyth, which equates to a cut of 1 in 5 of us here now. If we were applying next year, would not be here. Regardless of how well you were doing, regardless if you deserve to be here, you would not be in because the government's deciding you don't deserve to be here. And that's frankly wrong, it's unjustifiable, and it's damaging to education. If you pass this motion, we can work with NUS Wales to fight for proper undergraduate funding to ensure that our education can continue to provide some of the best education in Wales and continue to ensure that everyone from every background can continue to go into education regardless of financial income, regardless of what funding is available for it. We need to fight for real funding to pass this motion so we can go to NUS and organise a national campaign to ensure real funding for universities. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the proposer? Does anyone wish to speak against? In which case we take the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And those against? Any abstentions? The motion clearly passes by show of hands. Thank you. The sixth motion is Reform Sports and Societies, giving power back to the members. Apologies, the names weren't on the booklet. It's proposed by Alan Murphy and seconded by Joanne Rhys-Evans.
This is my first and last motion in 2 years. Basically, this was passed through Sports and Societies Council the other day. Basically, this motion eliminates the councils in their current form, which currently are underperforming, and we have to force people to come or bribe them with free pizza, which always works, but we can't afford that sort of stuff all the time. So basically what this does is provides each societies and sports with an executive committee where people want to come and they can create lasting change and develop some of the stuff. It'll also give societies and clubs more representation within the guild. At the current moment in time, there's 3 of us representing nearly 3,500 students who are currently members of sports clubs and societies. So that's, what was that, 1,000? I don't know.
Any questions for the proposer? Does anyone wish to speak against? In which case we take the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? Motion clearly passes by show of hands. Thank you.
That was easy.
The seventh motion is Aberguild for anti-bullying and anti-harassment, proposed by Laura Dickens and seconded by Andrew Tyndall.
Basically, this motion is, the university have been working on their own anti-harassment and anti-bullying policy. This motion basically gives us the opportunity to work with them so that the guild also has one, so that you will be protected and you've got somewhere to come to if you're having any troubles. It's basically as it says in the book, so yeah.
Any questions to the proposer? Does anyone wish to speak again? Question? Which motion? That's not a motion. That was mentioned in Tom's report. The reports are separate to the motions. The reports are statements of things that are happening, and the motions are things we vote on. Any further questions to the proposer? Bridie?
What are you going to do about that? How are you going to promote safe online talk? And I think there's been the problem with societies not being able to get rid of members offline because they've been bullied and harassed.
It's something we're going to look into. I've put it down to make sure that it gets included, basically. Obviously, this is in very early stages, so it'll be something I'll be reporting on next year at the first Assembly meeting.
Any further questions to the proposer? Does anyone wish to speak against? In which case we take the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? And any abstentions? In which case the motion clearly passes. Thank you. Possibly again record time, we move to the final motion of the night, which is enabling the growth and development of Aberystwyth student media, proposed by Stefan Storch and seconded by Blethyn Richards.
Hello. This is going to be the 5th time today that I've stood here and talked about student media after the student media AGM today, so just going to do it pretty quick, but if you've got any questions, please ask them at the end. So like I said in the last GM, Bay Radio's had the best year ever this year in terms of record membership, most shows, everything like that, most money made thanks to sterling work by our treasurer who's not paying attention. Bay Radio and the Courier have both already voted to merge into one single organisation next year, and we've had the AGM for that, the elections for that today, and elected 21 members of the committee for that, which is excellent. So that organisation will be Aberystwyth Student Media, which will do everything that Bay Radio and the Courier does this year, plus what Aber TV should be doing this year. We currently struggle for room in the Courier's little office space and often have to spill into other rooms, which is less than ideal, causes a lot of problems, and more space for the Courier and student media in general is definitely needed. This motion will mandate the Guild to provide a suitable workspace for student media. We currently lose out against other student newspapers and student media in general because we have a poor consistency from year to year, which other newspapers do have as well, but a lot of them have consistent members of staff that work on the paper as a job. So this motion is going to mandate the Guild to lobby the university for more money to enable us to employ a member of staff and make sure student media in Aberystwyth doesn't collapse and fail like it did 2 years ago when there wasn't any Courier at all. And I really don't want to see that happening after all the excellent progress that student media has made this year. Thank you.
Any questions to the proposer?
Jack
So can you stand? Stand, thank you.
Ellis, na i ofyn y cwestiwn yn Gymraeg. Faint o waith datblygiad o fewn y dwyieithrwydd gan gynnwys y datblygiad newydd yma?
Ni wedi cael swydd Cymraeg heddi, Llion i fyny fe, a mae fi'n mynd i wneud siŵr bod digon o Cymraeg yn cael ei popeth cael ei wneud yn Cymraeg gyda'r Aberystwyth Student Media newydd. Dwi eisiau gweld lot mwy yn dod mas o'r Ritgorn, a dwi'n credu mae eisiau newid hwnna lot, achos ar y foment mae'n warthus i bod yn onest. So fe'n neud unrhyw beth dyle fe fod yn neud, mae'n just dangos lluniau o Willys pobl yn Pantycelyn.
Any further questions for Steph? Andrew Tyndall?
Just for the benefits of people who haven't read the report, could you just clarify what the contents of them were?
Which report?
The report referencing results one.
The Integrated Student Media Plan?
Yeah,
that's been online for
yeah, but for the benefit of people who
weeks.
might not have read it, could you just clarify?
It's a long, very... No. It's available online in multiple places. You can go and read it. The summary of the Integrated Student Media Plan is everything I said in my speech just now, which is that Aberystwyth Student Media currently suffers from lack of consistency caused by not having a staff member in place to maintain the work done each year. Do you want more information of what's in it? Can I stop there? Okay.
Any further questions for Stefan?
Okay. Yeah. Please, os ti'n bod that. Yeah. Na dyn. Dwi'n cytuno gyda'r syniad yn hollol. Dyle fod Cymraeg yn dod lan mewn y Radio Bai a'r Courier blwyddyn hyn, ond fi sydd wedi bod yn gwneud y Cymraeg am Radio Bai fel ti'n gwybod, yn siwr. A fi wedi bod yn trial cael pobl dod mewn a wneud sioe Cymraeg. Da ni un sioe Cymraeg yn ymlaen, a hwnna safe'n rhedeg bob wythnos. Da ni un person sy'n gwneud e bob wythnos, i fod yn onest, am safe'n bosib wneud sioe gyda un person, so mae'r sioe Cymraeg dim yn digwydd bob wythnos. Fi wedi gofyn i digon o bobl i sgwennu rhywbeth yn Cymraeg am y Courier blwyddyn hyn, a hwnna beth wedi digwydd. Fi'n credu cyn i ni roi rhywbeth mwy concrete mewn lle am student media blwyddyn nesaf, rhaid i ni cael rhywbeth Cymraeg blwyddyn hyn. Dylen ni wedi cael rhywbeth blwyddyn hyn, a dim bai y Courier dim bai Radio Bai bai rhywbeth Cymraeg sy'n wastad yn cwyno bod dim byd o Cymraeg yn digwydd, a wedyn byth yn rhoi unrhyw beth i ni roi mewn. Sa'n gallu cyfieithu popeth yn y Courier, mae hwnna'n posib.
Just pwynt bach o wybodaeth ar ran hynny, ond yn wybodaeth a gydadlod gadarnhau gyda myfyrwyr yn Pantycelyn yn diwedd, yn trafod sefyllfa Rachel a gweud am y wael o fe. Beth o'n i gweud wrth i nhw, byddai digon o brwdfrydau i gynnal yn bapur newydd Cymraeg i gyd. Fe byddwn ni yn mynd ati a ffurfio rhyw bwyllgor, a yn amlwg o dysgu arbenigedd chi o fewn y maes strategau a chofiogiadau chi am wneud job gwylew arno fe. Byddech chi wedyn wedi parod i'n cynorthwyo ni ac hefyd i gynnig cymor arbenigol ac ariannol, os ni'n gallu sicrhau bod yna ddigon o ddiordeb i baratoi papur Cymraeg tebyg.
Wrth gwrs. Fi wedi bod yn meddwl hwnna blwyddyn hyn yn barod, a fi'n credu mae pawb yn cytuno bod yr Rithgor yn eitha wael. Fi wedi bod yn meddwl am ffyrdiau i roi mwy o newyddion Cymraeg mewn i'r canllun newydd, a fi'n credu dwi'n hapus i gweithio blwyddyn nesaf gyda pawb yn Pantycelyn i wneud siŵr bod digon o Cymraeg yn dod mas o student media Aberytwyth mewn ffyrdd erthyglau Cymraeg mewn y Courier neu mewn rhyw ffordd hollol wahanol. Fi'n siarad Cymraeg, fi eisiau darllen newyddion Cymraeg am beth waith, a fi'n credu bod eisiau rhywbeth newid gyda newyddion Cymraeg, i fod yn onest. So dwi'n cytuno gyda popeth yn gweud, ond ar foment, dim da ni digon o bobl sydd eisiau sgwennu yn Cymraeg. Sa'n gallu rili wneud unrhyw beth fy hunan am hwnna, so os ti'n moyn sgwennu rhywbeth, wneud e.
Ond beth o'n i yn ffurfio'r pwynt ar hyn, o'n i wedi gwneud, a bod ni'n dod at gyda'r pwyntog, a wahodd chi rhyw gyfarfod, a ydych chi'n gymharol i ni drafod pethau.
Siwr, ie. Diolch.
Any further questions to the proposer? Anyone wish to speak against? In which case, we'll take the motion to a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? And any abstentions? In which case, the motion clearly passes. Thank you. Which brings us to the final business of this evening, which is the elections, the Democratic Procedures Committee and Elections Committee. Is there anyone who hasn't handed their name forward who would like to stand for either committee? So far, the names I have for DPC are Heather McLean, Jess Carr and Duncan Haslam, and for Elections Committee, Ainsley Gilbert and myself. Anyone else who would like to stand for either committee? In which case, those names are elected, and the vacant positions, which is 3 on DPC and 2 on Elections Committee, will be filled at the start of the next academic year. Does anyone have any further business they would like to raise at this meeting? Jacob.
Can I ask that in the next assembly meetings that we do have, that the chair does have the earphones in, so that he does understand the Welsh? If that means him coming away from the chair, from the table, to do so, or bring the table closer so he can plug it in. I will be lobbying next year for easier handsets, but it would make sense the chair does listen and understand the Welsh that is being said.
Absolutely, you're quite right, and my apologies. I did have a cable, which I thought would cross the distance. I couldn't find it as we started the meeting. I apologise. You're right, I should have gone down. I can only be in so many places at once. But you're quite right, I'll try and get this cable better organised next year. I apologise. Any further business for this meeting? At the back? Spoke one.
I was wondering if we could raise a vote of thanks from the GM and the Guild in general for Tom for all his hard work in consistently minuting and his work on reception in probably what is a very hard job.
Noted. Thank you. We could take it as a vote if you like. All those in favour of a vote of thanks to Tom? Thank you. Vote of thanks is passed. Is there any further business for this meeting?
I was rather disappointed with the lack of bilingualism surrounding the Mayball and the fact that, not just the fact that the bilingual Facebook page, but events itself organised during the Mayball. There's many stands for many things, and I can commend you, they're brilliant, but there's no representation there at all of any Welsh culture, any Welsh bands, any Welsh entertainment, and just something to recognise next year. That
I take into account your concerns. I saw a discussion on the event page, which I translated. Yeah, absolutely, it's a valid concern. I can't do anything about it, but it's taken into account, will be minuted, and therefore hopefully dealt with appropriately.
Yeah.
Any further points for this meeting? Tammy?
Yeah, sorry, just to really quickly reinforce what Stefan said. In his defence, he really have pushed for, there it is, for Welsh stuff this year. And it has been advertised a few times on the IMCA Facebook and such, and there wasn't as much input as we wanted, and I'm sure you will work great with them next year. I think the Gordon's purpose is thought to be misunderstood. It's not as formal as the Premier, but we can definitely thank you for trying this.
Any further points to this meeting? In which case, all it leaves me to say is the date and time of the next meeting, which will be in October 2012, probably near the end of October, which will be the first meeting of the new Guild Assembly. There will still be an annual general meeting this time next year, so it's not the end of this concept altogether. But certainly when we come back next year, we'll have a different model altogether, and there'll be a lot of information put out about that over summer and when we come back. So thank you all for attending, and I will see you next year if you're returning. Thank you. One of those things where you want to go down and be like, are they going to stop talking? Is it going to make me look like an idiot if I go down?
I'm joined now by Stefan Storch, who proposed to enable the growth and development of Aberystwyth student media. Stefan, briefly, could you just explain what the motion entails?
Yeah, the motion is to get some more support for student media in Aberystwyth. At the moment, we're trying desperately to compete with other student newspapers in terms of quality and frequency of content delivery. And with the Courier particularly, looking at the archives of years past, it's a kind of very wavy kind of pattern where sometimes you get a good year and then all that progress is lost. And given that this year I've put so much of my own time and effort into it, as well as the rest of the Courier committee, I wanted to kind of put something in place. And the rest of us did as well. It's not really my project alone. There's a lot of other people in the Courier committee and the Bay Radio committee. We wanted to put something in place that would allow some more continuation from year to year, so that when people like the both committees this year are working very hard, that progress isn't lost at the end of every year when the committees change around.
Now that the motion has passed, how do you see Aberystwyth student media developing into the future?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be like fireworks, best newspaper ever. It's just going to be excellent. No, seriously, it's going to be a lot better than it has been in the past, and we're going to be able to continue the progress we've made this year, and get a newspaper that can win NUS Wales Awards, which I'm not bitter about not getting this year, and hopefully even get some other awards and get some recognition for the effort that everyone puts into it.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Stefan. Thanks for joining us. Cheers. Anti-harassment. Briefly, could you just explain what the motion entailed for us?
Well, basically, it's quite a small policy at the moment. We're trying to make it into a big one. The university have just started their own anti-harassment bullying policy, so we think the Guild needs one that sort of corresponds with it. obviously it mentioned cyberbullying, which is something that's pushed up. I just wanted to get that in there because obviously we've had quite a few complaints this year about people not being so nice with each other, so just wanted to include that.
That was that one of the questions where you were speaking on the motion? One of the questions was about online bullying. So how do you propose to sort of incorporate that into what you've already said in the motion?
Okay. Well, we've already started a Don't Be a Troll campaign, if you remember the little Moomin trolls with the hair. So we're starting that, and we're trying to get sort of a policing thing. The first stage would be like an idea that you get print screened what you said to someone, say, do you realise this could be misconstrued as bullying? And then there's sort of like several layers. So like the second one would be sort of you meet face to face, and then it gets passed to the uni. It's basically just a step. Hopefully it wouldn't reach the top step, which is, yeah.
Well, Laura Dickens, thank you very much for joining us, and wish you every success with the motion. Thanks. Okay, so I'm joined by Alan Minifi now. Alan, you seconded the motion, End the Confusion, Become a Union. Briefly, could you just explain sort of what the motion means and what it's all about?
Basically, we just wanted to change what the current name is of the Guild of Students to the Union. Basically, we felt there's a lot of confusion around the Union. What is the Guild and what is the Union? A lot of people think that the bar is the Union, and then the Guild is all the other things that are behind the closed doors at the end. So we just wanted basically a unified brand that would that we could represent the Union fully then, and everybody would know just one name.
Great, so thank you very much for that one. You also proposed a motion giving power back to the member of sports and societies. Could you just, there was a bit of confusion about that one, so could you just sort of clear that up, what that means?
Basically, filling in a lot of the grey areas in the Constitution on sports clubs and societies, and also eliminating Societies Council and Sports Council into creating an executive committee for that, rather than having councils and discussions about everything and all that sort of stuff. And we basically rather give it to people who are going to come up. We'll hold open forums still, but we'll have a committee. They'll be able to follow stuff.
In the long run, what sort of difference do you see that making to the members of sports and societies tonight?
I think that with having more people on board within the Guild to help organise certain things, I mean, stuff like varsity and super teams currently run by 2 people, and when you've got about 400 people trying to do some sport and trying to get on 7 buses, then it's a lot of work for 2 people. So hopefully, with a bit of help, then those events will run a lot smoother and be bigger and better.
Great stuff. Alan, thank you very much for joining us. Best luck with the motions. Cheers. I'm joined now by Dorothy Bretner. Dorothy, your motion was for the effective integration of international students. Briefly, could you just explain what that means to us?
Actually, it means that all the international students are not living together in one house, but they're mixed together with different ethnic students, so that they get like better integrated and they have a better value for their money in Aberystwyth.
Have you been approached by many international students? Do you think this has become sort of a real issue so much that you had to take it to the Guild? Have you been approached by a lot of people about this?
Oh yes, I have. Like a lot of Asian students, a lot of African students, and a lot of like European or Polish students as well. Yeah.
In that case, why, in your opinion, why do you think nothing's been done about it before? Why do you think it's got to this stage now?
It's really sad because like the university wants international students to come here, but then they didn't change anything, and they always group them together. And I guess like I really don't know why nothing happened before, but I'm glad that the motion passed now.
Definitely. Well, best of luck with the motion. Thank you very much for joining us. Cheers.
Delilah, what's it like in New York City? I'm 1,000 miles away, but girl, tonight you look so pretty. Yes, you do. Times Square can shine as bright.
I'm joined now by Guild President Ben Meakin. Ben, one of your motions today was for the UMCA President to sit on council. There was so much confusion regarding this, so could you just try and clear it up for us tonight?
The main issue was that, like we said in the previous GM, we wanted education officer to sit on council because that's how 99% of other universities work. The original motion that we passed through sort of did that and said that we would have IMCA as a non-voting place on council, but would be there to just as an observer place. In hindsight, the motion was rushed, and I think even though the amendment didn't pass today to lobby for 3 places on council, we'll probably still try to lobby for that, just because it's better to have more student representation. You can't go wrong with a bit more student representation. But now what it means is that basically, like has happened before the original motion went through, my position, President, and the Welsh Affairs position, and IMCA President, will sit on council. It's also a lot more relevant because the Vice Chancellor has noted that Welsh Affairs and Coleg Cymraeg kind of lethal issues will be a standing agenda item on council, and there's no point not having the Welsh President voting on those issues. So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You cleared that up a lot better than I thought. Yeah, to be honest, that was made it very clear. So thank you very much, Guild President Ben Meakin, and on behalf of all of us from Aberystwyth Student Media, thank you very much for watching the coverage of the annual general meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thanks.
One, two, three, four.